going to be about the community. Am I starting over now? Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to talk about the community eligibility provision, which is something that the state's trying to get as many schools on board as possible. Many schools are, and we're also getting quite a few signing up. So let's get into it. All right. How does this work? Community eligibility is a process. It's not a simple process, but it's also not terribly difficult. Community eligibility allows a school district, district-wide, select schools, or even groups of schools within the district to serve all meals at no charge. Yes, I know this happens in the state of Maine anyway, but this is just part of the federal requirements of CEP. It's based on the number of enrolled students having access to free and reduced price free meals based on the direct certification list. And that's all that's used is just the direct certification list. No applications are used for this process. All meals are claimed either free or paid, depending on the claiming percentages determined. And as mentioned, remember, no students pay for a meal under CEP. Okay, some of the definitions we're going to use today. LEA, that's the local education agency. That's the name of the district. It is not an AOS. It is not a group of schools. Can't think of the other terms. But it's, if you have a school board, that's an LEA. ISP, individual student percentage. And that's going to be the primary focus of what we're going to try to determine today. Now, in this case, categorical eligibility is used a little bit differently. For CEP, if we say categorical eligibility, that means they're on the direct cert list or they're able to get benefits because of the direct cert list and living in the household with somebody. Remember, no applications are used. You won't collect applications. Few benefits: increase access to school meals for children in high poverty areas. No household applications. Families do not complete school meal applications for any reason. Since you're not collecting applications, you don't have to complete the verification process. With this, no students have an eligibility status, so overt identification is gone. We're going to use the 1.6 multiplier with the ISP to increase federal funds, plus potentially increase access to other programs, for instance, summer and FFVP. Things to think about: potential issues surrounding the absence of the application data. In-school meal applications data used to distribute other sources for funding. It's used all the time. We're hoping to increase the access of federal reimbursement. If you are going to select to participate in CEP, As I mentioned, it's a 4-year program. No children's applications will be used. You're only going to use the direct certification list. If you're going to participate in CEP, contact the schools, have them check their drawers for applications, and if they have any, throw them away. To participate, you must offer both breakfast and lunch to students every day. Meal accountability can be simpler. You can use a clicker, a tick sheet. You can use a computer if you want to. You can still use the computer by name to make sure that students don't come through twice if you've got more than 2 meal accountability lines. The Code of Federal Regulations that talks about direct certification is 7 CFR 245.2. And this means that's the direct certification information. Students are listed on there that receive SNAP, TANF, foster, homeless, migrant, Head Start, runaway, and now that you can use on the direct certification list is the Medicaid free. Your claiming percentage, USDA changed the qualifier from 40% to 25%, which means a lot more schools and districts are eligible. So as long as you can come up with a percentage of 25% of the students enrolled are getting access, getting benefit because of the direct cert list, you can participate. Don't forget, you're using everybody on the direct cert list that is enrolled except the Medicaid reduced. The data that you're going to be using for this is as of April 1st. So that's what, next Tuesday is April 1st. So if you're going to be participating, you need to access the direct certification list and download it in Excel. And you need your student enrollment list on April 1st. Once again, in Excel, we'll talk about those two things later. As it mentioned, Maine Medicaid is now available to use for the CEP determination. When you're looking at the DC list, if the letter is A, that means it's Maine Medicaid free. If the letter is Z, they are not used because that's Maine Medicaid reduced. Enrolled students. Students who are enrolled in and attending schools participating in the Community Eligibility Provision School and who have access to at least one meal service daily, breakfast or lunch. So if your pre-K comes in, they have breakfast, but they're not there for lunch, they can still count. However, if a student does not have access to breakfast and or lunch, they are not included on the enrollment list for this determination. ISP, number of students enrolled in a school identified as receiving free meal benefits because of being listed on the direct certification list. The number of DC students divided by your enrollment equals your ISP. As mentioned, the ISP must be 25% or higher, unrounded. I can't specify that enough. If you get to 24.99%, you do not qualify. However, and I'll show you this later, not all schools, if you're going to be grouping, have to be at the 25%. As long as the group is at 25%, you'll be okay. As mentioned, the information is as of April 1st. You're going to use the direct cert list, SNAP, TANF, migrant, homeless. All of those are going to count. All students living in a household receiving either SNAP, TANF, or Maine Medicaid free benefits qualify as long as one child is on the direct cert list for that reason. Johnny's on the SNAP list. He lives at 10 Main Street. Timmy's not on the SNAP list, but also lives at 10 Main Street. They both get the benefit and both can be counted for the ISP. From the direct certification list, however, foster, migrant, homeless, Head Start, those do not carry. Those students only qualify to that student. That benefit only qualifies to that student. So here's what you're going to look. When you get to the DC list, in the upper right-hand corner is something very similar to what you see on this screen. It's got S for SNAP, T TANF, F foster, M migrant, H homeless, A Medicaid free, and also XZ, one of them, Maine Care Reduced. Maine Care Reduced, once again, is not eligible, cannot be counted. Student name matches. Now, I've been seeing this recently fairly often. Students are going by different names for whatever reason. There might be a misspell between what's on the DC list and what the enrollment has. Maybe the DC list has Hartley with a Y, but the district has Hartley with two E's. Something to be aware of. Names with hyphens, Smith/Jones. Maybe one of the lists only has one of those names. Also, a lot of times we're seeing now where students are going by a different preferred first name. So you need to be aware of that so that when I'm doing my data match, you can tell me that David now goes by Sam. He prefers that. Is there a suffix? Is it a junior or the third? They may not be on one list, they may be on both, but may be more of a difficult data match. Once you've got your ISP determined, that is multiplied by 1.6 to determine your free claiming rate. So for instance, if your ISP is 40%, your free claiming rate will be 64%. The rest of the meals will be reimbursed at the paid rate. Yes, the state will continue to pay the difference between the free and paid meals. So here's an instance of what I was talking about earlier. We've got the Bedrock Community Schools. Rubble School qualifies at 51% ISP. Flintstone Middle School qualifies at 42%. However, the Bedrock High School does not qualify because they're only at 16.8%. However, when we group all three schools together, the ISP is 39%, and therefore all three schools in the Bedrock Community District can participate using the 39% ISP. We're going to take the number of directly certified students, which we had was 619, the enrolled students of 1,587, gives us an ISP of 0.39004. When we're doing this, we're going to calculate the percentage to two spaces after the dot. So the 4 is going to drop. So that means it's 39%. Multiplying that by the multiplier of 1.6 means your free claiming is 62.41. Your paid claiming is 37.59. So we've got those percentages. And for the month, 1,234 meals were served. We're going to multiply that by the 62.4%, which is our free claiming percentage. That comes up to 770.02. Using standard rounding, that's going to drop. 1234 multiplied by 37.60 comes to 463.86. Standard rounding, that becomes 464. Any time that a meal adjustment needs to be made, it's adjusted at the paid meal, not the free. And so here's an example of what we've seen as an increase in the DC eligible students. This particular school had an enrollment of 347. The DC eligibility, not including Medicaid, was 51. Their ISP was only 14.7. However, when we redid it with the Medicaid free, that was an additional 59 students. So that means the direct cert list was a total of 110 students, which calculates the ISP to be 31.7, giving you a free claiming percentage of 50.72. Okay, I'm going to participate in CEP. What do I need to do? Excuse me. First of all, the superintendent must email david.hartley@maine.gov by June 30th of the year prior to starting. Must tell me you're participating and must list the schools. Don't just say all the schools, list all the schools. If you're going to do the schools in two different groups, Group A is these 3 schools. Group B are these 2 schools, or whatever it is, because I need to know that in determination of your ISP. An agreement will be returned to the superintendent to sign and return. It'll be signed by the director here and returned to you with the instructions on what to do next. All of the information relating to this has to be uploaded in CNP Web because there's confidential data. The DC list is confidential. So you're going to have to upload it into CNP Web, just like you would do if you were getting an administrative review, except you're going to choose other process. So what am I going to send to David? You're going to upload files. That's the enrollment, the direct certification list. If you have a Head Start program, you need to get a list from whoever's in charge of that Head Start program with a list of students that are in it at the Head Start reason. Quite often there's a class that has both Head Start and regular pre-K, but only the Head Start students can be used in the calculation. All this data must have a date on it of April 1st or a day or 2 on either side. When you send the information, include what you've determined your ISP to be at each school and the total ISP. And I will work to validate that. So, as of April 1st, and I need this data in Excel or a similar format. I cannot use a PDF or Google Docs. I need it in Excel. That list for the enrollment needs to include all of the enrolled students. It needs to include how they benefit on the direct cert list. List Head Start students, school that the student attends, because I have to make the ISP determination at school level, then at district level. If you have students not on the direct cert list, but living in a household, You need to put on that spreadsheet for those students their address, and I can use that address to make that connection. Whatever you send, whatever data you're using to determine this, you must maintain. It's data that can be requested for up to 7 years. So make sure when you do this, everything you're sending, you also maintain. As mentioned, the data used is as of April 1st. You have until April 1st to June 30th to submit the data. We have to have time in this office to do our calculations. As mentioned, the superintendent will notify me. Once that is done and everything's all set, I will make space in CNP Web, set it up so that you can upload the information that you need to. So here's an example of two students in the same address. So you've got Alex Randero on the direct cert list getting free benefits. However, Bobby Smith is in that household, but he's not on the direct certification list. But they both live at 123 Jones Street in Monkston. So I can see that connection. As you'll see here, kind of hard, I know. This is a copy, different names on the DC list. And you'll see that SNAP TANF column, that's where the letters are. If it says Z, that student cannot be used. Foster, homeless, migrant, Medicaid free, TANF, SNAP, those all work. So what's going to happen? You're going to upload the data into CNP Web. Once you have done that, you need to send me an email that it's been uploaded. Then I can go look at it and start the process. I'm going to compare what you sent with what you say and to see if we can come up to the same claiming percentage or if something's wrong on either side. As mentioned, that you must participate in both the lunch and breakfast program. You must be in good standing of administering these programs. If you've had a bad administrative review, you won't be able to participate in these programs. You're going to tell me you've got the information. I'm going to validate it. I've got a formula I use to compare the DC list to the enrollment list and looking for other things that might be a little bit odd. When you're doing this, as I mentioned earlier, where you're all set, you're going to start claiming under CEP. All you need to do is an individual meal count of the number of meals served for breakfast or lunch, and that's the number you're going to enter into CNP Web. You serve 1,200 meals, you're going to enter into CNP Web 1,200 lunches, and that's going to do the calculation of what your reimbursement will be. You can't put in two different numbers. There's only space for one number for you to put in CNP Web when you're claiming. You still must access the DC list at least 3 times annually. That's a federal requirement of the school nutrition program. Plus, students that are on the direct cert list still get that benefit for other reasons. So when you're doing the DC list, you're in special provision, you're in CEP, and it's January. You've run the DC list again. These 3 kids weren't on the DC list before. They are now. Doesn't change what you're doing in CEP. But the families still must be notified that they're on the DC list. You will have to change in your public release explaining about CEP and what it means. We have a sample media release on the Child Nutrition webpage. We have more information on our webpage. You go to the home page, select the programs, go to lunch program, and then scroll down to special provisions. And there's more information there as well. If a school is participating in CEP and they've decided that they don't want to, they can drop out. It's not a requirement that you stay in. However, if you drop out in the middle of the year, you have 30 days to collect, process applications, and complete the verification process. So if you decide you don't like this and you don't want to do it, finish the year. At the beginning of the next school year, collect the applications. Some questions we had from previous webinars. You have one school in the district that is currently doing CEP. But with the 25% drop, we want to make it everyone. Can I do this? Yes. And I would recommend you start a new 4-year cycle with all of the schools that are going to be in the group. Otherwise, it's going to be confusing because this school is at cycle 1, this school's at a different cycle, and it's just confusing. If you're going to change what schools participate, put them all in a new cycle. Why should I start a new year with CEP? With the addition of the Medicaid free, we're anticipating and strongly believe, and have proven a little bit already, that the federal reimbursement for the free meals increase will go up, and thereby the state reimbursement for the paid meals will go down because there's fewer meals claimed at paid and more claimed at free. We have CTE students attending our campus. Do they count? One question. Are they enrolled in your district? If they are enrolled in your district, yes, you count them. If they're visiting, they only come a couple of days a week, no, you don't count them. Only enrolled students are used to determine your CEP claiming percentages. All right, I've said a lot, and I have great faith. Questions?
We do have a few.
Let's go.
Well, the first one I can answer.
Okay.
Yes, this is being recorded and will be on our website hopefully early next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Why is everyone required to do this when we supposedly have a choice whether to elect to participate or not in CEP?
You're not required to do it. We are strongly recommending it in the anticipation of reducing the state matching money in reimbursement. Because with the inclusion of the Medicaid free, your free claiming percentage will go up. It's not a requirement. It is strongly recommended at this point.
We have several students that are on the direct certification list that no longer attend our district. We only use students that still are enrolled at this time, correct?
Correct. Only enrolled students are counted. If on that list is Johnny, who's not enrolled, but his sister Sally isn't on the list but is enrolled, you can use that as a connection to get the benefit.
With not accepting applications, how does it affect Title I or other programs?
There are other forms to use. There's other methods. There is what's called an alternate economic status form. Check with Title I because I believe they are not using the alternate economic status form. But that form can be used for other purposes. It is not a child nutrition form. You are not required to approve it. And if you do, you have to charge the district for your time to do that form.
If students were on the DC list at the start of the year, but are no longer on the list as of April 1st, do they still count?
I will count them. I'll need that list because I need to have proof that you can't just, nothing personal against anyone out there. I can't take your word. I have to have written proof about the list.
Why would a school district only enroll several schools and not others?
In the past, well, maybe even if you combine, maybe if you combine, one school's just so low that it's not going to be a qualifier. You can't qualify because this one school takes you under the 25%. But without it, if you're above, leave them out.
You said Head Start students count, but not pre-K students. Pre-K students need to fall on the DC list as other students K through 12?
Correct. Head Start does not transfer. Head Start is just that student. There's a special program, guidance, Head Start, so they automatically qualify. Pre-K does not.
If we have students in our enrollment and we are the primary, but we place them in a special purpose out of district placement, do we still count them?
Yes.
We are currently a Provision 2 school. Without looking, I believe we are in our third non-base school year. When do I need to start this process to become CEP? This year or next year?
We would like for you to start it so that in 26 you're in CEP. We want to get as many schools as possible in CEP.
I might have missed this in your presentation. My apologies if you already discussed it. I thought I heard that CEP eligibility will go from 25 to 60% of SNAP at some point because of the recent continuing resolution at the federal level. Is this true, and when would this take effect?
I have no idea if it's true. So I can't answer that question.
If students are on the DC list with their official name, but they are in the school system with their chosen name, is there a way you want it? Is there a way you want that on documentation?
Include on the enrollment list for the student for what they go by. In the next column, maybe a column similar to the one you're using for the addresses, say David Hartley goes by Sam Hartley. So that when I do the DC match, I can see that.
Does CEP help with qualifying the summer feeding program?
Individual sites, yes. Because if you're and that's part of the reason I have to calculate these individually. If that individual site, your ISP times the multiplier gets you to 50%, yes, that will help with the summer and FFBP programs. But it's based on the individual site, ISP, and claiming percentage.
Any concerns about federal funding being pulled from these programs?
I have no idea and cannot answer that question.
If my homeless student is not on the list, can I count them?
If you're what?
Homeless student.
You have a homeless liaison. Get the list from that individual, and then we can use it. But that list has to say, this is from the person's name. These students are homeless. You can't, once again, this is nothing personal. You can't go by the student saying they're homeless. You can't have heard a conversation that they're homeless. They're either on the DC list or homeless, or the homeless liaison in your district has given you a list with those names.
To clarify, are pre-K kids not eligible? What about those of us that are in the initial cohort of taking on 3 and 4-year-olds with IEPs?
In order for a student to be eligible, one of two methods for that grade, that group, they are either in a pre-K program or they are on the direct certification list. That's it. There's no other qualifier.
If you have to use the individual search and student comes up, do we print the paper and upload to you when we upload other info?
Yes. Yes, good question. I should have mentioned that.
How are E-rate percentages calculated if we aren't collecting the free and reduced forms?
I don't know. That's one of the forms probably for the alternate economic status form.
I believe we are early on in our current provisions. Am I understanding that no matter where we are, year 2 or 3, so on, we should still complete this?
Yes, as two things. Well, one thing really, with the addition of the Medicaid free, your free claiming will go up, thereby saving the state money in less paid meals being claimed.
Does the homelessness need to be dated as of April 1st?
Yes. Going once? Okay. Under the wire.
This is about E-rate. They can use the CEP data to boost the E-rate return. There is a separate there is a separate guidance on this.
Okay. One more?
It's a comment.
Okay, comment.
It sounds like the incentive to do this will save the state money, but have no impact on the school/district.
You're going to get the same reimbursement no matter what, because the state pays the difference in federal reimbursement between the free reimbursement and the reduced and paid reimbursement. You serve 1,000 meals at lunchtime, whether you're CEP collecting applications, provision 2, you're going to get $4,500 in reimbursement, or 45 something for 4,500.
To clarify, all Head Start and pre-K automatically qualify?
Only only Head Start. Pre-K does not automatically qualify. Going once? Someone typing? No one typing? Any questions? Most of you know how to get a hold of me. Call me, email me. Someone typing? Going once? Going twice? Sold.